So entrepreneurs are the spark for change for a couple of different reasons, in my opinion. I'll give you three. So first, entrepreneurs at their core are risk takers. They're people that are going to push the boundaries, break rules, uh, may not always conform within the system. And so obviously I commend the UN and the UN Foundation for bringing that in. It's not necessarily known as the riskiest organization in the world. So I think that is very important. I think entrepreneurs, especially in this day and age, also bring a fair bit of diversity. And so they're not coming in necessarily through the normal channels or the normal schools. And so I think diversity is a huge component, especially with the global mission for the UN. And then I think lastly, and this is also on the diversity front, entrepreneurs will bring a much needed new network to the UN. So I think that's both in the form of partnerships. I think that's also in the form of individuals that the UN will serve and have a great deal of new opportunities, basically using these, what we call weak ties in the tech business. I've always been fascinated with the UN. I think as a young child growing up, the iconic image, of course, of the UN is the peacekeeping force and the blue helmets. I also had family that was in the diplomatic corps from Burma, and have had relatives that worked at the UN. So I always had a little bit of passing knowledge, but didn't have too much, frankly, going into being on the first Global Entrepreneurs Council, or the GEC. I didn't have a huge amount of experience. Now, I will say, working with the UN and the UN Foundation, what impresses me most about this organization is not only its ability to convene, which I think is obviously a huge component of what UN-UNF does, but also its ability to actually scale. And so working with the GEC for the last 3+ years, 3.5 years, we've actually been able to create programs that have touched millions and millions of people around the world. And from getting something as an entrepreneur, from idea to an inception to actually delivering a product to the market, usually that takes a fairly long time. But with the UN, you can take something from idea to inception to global scale and do it very quickly. And so that's extremely impressive, as well are all the people and the staff that we continue to work with here. So there are several global issues that keep me up at night, but I think the biggest for me is around climate change and fighting climate change. As you know, in the US, there's obviously a perception problem around an awareness problem around the scientific evidence behind climate change. To me, I think we have a moral obligation to leave the world a better place for our children. And as a relatively or impending new father coming August, that issue has become more and more clear to me. And so I've been supporting the climate change movement, or fighting the climate change movement, through my nonprofit, Palindrome. The Palindrome mission is to change how leaders give back. And a big part of that change is creating tech platforms that allow nonprofits to scale, and building out those platforms and leveraging the community that we have in Silicon Valley. And so that has resulted in something that's called #Climate. And #Climate, which is also partnering with the UN and the climate change work that is happening here, is really focused on using the power and the influence of social media, letting people talk to influencers and people that they care about, get notified about issues that they care about, and help people become aware of even small actions that they can take to fight climate change, and also help change public perception about where the problem really stems from. So becoming part of the first GEC was, I think, a little bit of a mishmash of experiences. I had met Elizabeth through a couple of other summits and conferences that we'd been to. I was just starting Palindrome really at the time. I'd been active as a entrepreneur in the tech space since 1998. So I've been doing that for a while, and had kind of shifted my efforts for a year or two to start the nonprofit before I started my latest fund. And so to me, it was kind of a grand experiment. I'm not sure either side really knew what to expect out of the GEC to begin, and a lot of it was kind of defining it and figuring that out. And I have to say, it was one of the most enjoyable 2 years. Not only did we get to, I think, work on some pretty important issues, but we also really built, I think, a common bond and hopefully a foundation for future GEC classes who are continue to be more and more impressive, as much more impressive than our class, certainly. And it's a joy to work with great people like that.